All right. Good evening, SNMA and LMSA. This is who we're talking to tonight. We are so excited. First, let's introduce myself. I am Cameron Matthews, Dr. Cameron Matthews. I'm a family physician based in Washington, D.C., although right now I am in soaked Brooklyn. It is like flooding out here, Renee. And I'm one of the founders and director of the Tour for Diversity in Medicine. Renee?
Hello, I'm Dr. Renee Darko, and I am an OBGYN. And apparently, Dr. Matthews is in my hometown stomping grounds, okay, which I did not know.
It's just a
But
work thing. It's just a little work thing.
it's a little work thing. But I am in terms of SNMA, I'm a chair emeritus of the SNMA. And some of you may or may not know me from being the second half of the Docs Outside the Box podcast, but I do love doing things for Tour for Diversity in Medicine as one of their inaugural mentors. I'm so excited to talk with all of you today, applying to residency very soon.
I love it. I love it. And yes, I'm also a past national president emeritus with SNMA. I think, Renee, you and I have been through 2 decades of SNMA together,
Yes.
and we continue to enjoy this sort of engagement. It's so important. And our separate organization, Tour for Diversity in Medicine, is here to support, basically. So who are we? We call ourselves T4D for short. Please follow us on IG and Twitter, as you see in the banner across the bottom of your screen. But we are a nonprofit with about 50, Renee. We have about 50 volunteer physicians, dentists, and pharmacists now. And we go around the country and lead sessions like you see here on the screen to really try to connect with high school students and college students and motivate them into medicine, to motivate them to where you guys are now. Because tonight we are talking to our medical student audience. We have actually been doing this program that you signed in on called Road to Residency now for 5 years. We actually started it back during the pandemic when we did that quick flip in 2020 to virtual interviews for residency. And we got a little nervous. We were so nervous about our students being prepared for that virtual interviewing and knowing how to engage with programs just through a screen. We just, as a culture, as a society, we weren't ready for that. So we created this program called Road to Residency. And now 5 years later, we've been able to connect more than 1,000 graduating medical students to mock interviews and even some more longitudinal mentoring with faculty or senior residents of their chosen field. And it's pretty phenomenal. So tonight we are kicking off the didactic portion of Road to Residency. We've got 3 workshops. We'll show you the dates and everything. Actually, on this next slide, we really have actually matured this program over the past 5 years. So tonight we're just going to give you a few introductory strategies to how to apply to residency, how to think about applying. Then the next workshop next Monday, that's brought to you by a couple of more mentors and SNMA alum. They will be talking about ERAS a little bit more, how to think about signaling, geographic preferences and the like. Then next Wednesday, the 14th, 2 more SNMA alum and T4D mentors will be giving you insights on personal statements, your CV, how to think about blemishes on your application, all of that. Then the week of the 19th, you're going to get a little bit more dedicated introduction to your specialty. We are hosting more than 13 different webinars that week. You will receive, if you have actually registered for the Road to Residency program through your SNMA or LMSA chapter, please register, but you will receive links to those specialty-based panels where we have an unbelievable assortment of faculty, program directors, and the like coming together to, again, just hopefully make your path in this application season a little bit easier, a little bit more well understood, answer your questions and the like. Then Renee is back on September 10th. She leads an amazing workshop on becoming a financially savvy resident, because you guys are going to be rolling into, in a lot of different respects, maybe your first salary. Some of you, like myself, I had never had made money. Then it's not that much money comparatively, but I hadn't made money. I hadn't thought about my loans. I hadn't thought about debt. And so we're going to have a conversation about that as well. And then next March, when we're getting close to match day, we're going to have another workshop just to round out this series, to talk about what to do about match day, what to do with the SOAP process, and how to hopefully really make sure you're successful even through the SOAP process. So we are happy to partner with SNMA and LMSA to offer all of these workshops. Again, we want to make you successful. We hope that you get to choose a residency program, most importantly, that meets your needs, because this isn't just about them choosing you, it's about you choosing them as well. So we're going to give you a few insights on how to think about that starting tonight. All right. So tonight, let's think through how you should be thinking through the rest of this year. We're going to give a little bit of introduction on ERAS, on the match program, and NRMP. I mess it up every time I pronounce that. Going to walk you through the calendar, dates that you really need to know. Hopefully you know this, but you guys should have it drilled into your head. And unfortunately, I still meet fourth year students that don't really own this. And so we need to drive this home a little bit. I'm going to go through how to think through your letters of recommendation. And then Renee is going to close us out. Huge focus on how to be successful in virtual interviewing. Yes, we've all been on a Zoom screen, but there's some skills here that you need to be aware of, that you should practice during your mock interviews. And then we're going to round it out about how you should be thinking with a growth mindset as you're approaching this whole residency season.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. All right. So the fourth year, you got to love this word scramble, this word cloud. I think you're finally at this last stage, right? Because you've been, I remember this vividly. You've been this pre-med, right? You've been through these stressful rotations of your third year. And the fourth year, you're like, I'm almost there. I almost have that degree. But then you realize there's a whole bunch more of uncertainty. Like, where's your future? How are you leaning in? You're still being challenged a hell of a lot, because you're still being expected to produce and everything. You're expected to network. I mean, I loved this word cloud. It is a fascinating time because you have a lot of decisions to make that are just going to be laid out in front of you in a similar way to medical school application. But I think it's a little different because this, you're not just choosing a school where you're going to sit in class and maybe have some support from some faculty. This is actually choosing a work environment. I think it's a totally different. I don't know about you, Renee, but
I agree.
It's totally different. Like,
totally agree.
You need to choose, right? It's a different mentality you need to think about. So hopefully we will de-stress that decision making a little bit for you. But this year is going to be unfortunately stressful on the side, because there's a lot of processes you have to go through as far as whether you're doing electives and sub-Is. You guys know that's a hell of a lot more heads down into your rotations and everything. So how you think about that when you're doing interviews, maybe you start doing research, you got the stress of getting letters of recommendation, all of this. Fourth year, it's easier, but it's stressful in a different way. I'll say it like that. But there's ways to be successful with it. And we'll go over through all of our workshops. ERAS, if you guys are not familiar with this, if you have not gotten on AAMC's website and just start clicking through and reading, please start that immediately. I'm going to give you the dates in which you can go in and start filling out your applications. It's coming up in about a month, next month. But there's a fair amount of familiarity that you need to have with this website. So do not wait until you are ready to submit your application. Please start pouring through. They have a lot of YouTube videos. They have a lot of different articles to read through. But this is where you're going to submit all of your documentation, your transcripts, your letters of rec. Will go through that portal. Those of us who write them, we take that on. This is where your deans are going to go in and put in your MSPE, Medical School Performance Evaluation, all of this in one location. It's fabulous. It's nice and centralized. but it ain't necessarily cheap. And you guys remember how medical school applications work. It's about the same, right, with the ERAS. But I think one thing of note that they really, I'm glad they made this commitment this year. If you got your fees waived by LMSA to get into medical school, your fees are now waived for ERAS or a portion of them. Please read through those articles. That is a new thing coming up for this application season. At least it'll help you somewhat. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't necessarily help those of you who didn't have your fees waived, but there's at least some help there. But please dig into this site and get familiar. Then there's the second site, 2 different website, guys. It's not, this confused the hell out of me. I remember that. I was just like, wait, why does there have to be 2 different ones? But there's 2 different systems. ERAS is where your application is. NRMP is where you actually rank your programs. And that's where this algorithm is in the back end that does the matching of the actual match. This is a pretty critical tool set and a pretty critical algorithm that they pulled together, because it's pulling all of your data in. It's pulling all of the data from the residency programs in, and then it actually just spits it out. Now, there is some weighting. Your preferences are taken into account first. And now with signaling and geographic preferences and all of that, that's going to be a part of it as well, although that's taken into account as the programs rank you as well. But it is not something that you should take lightly. For every specialty, please, during our specialty panels, please ask questions about how to rank and how many and what you should be considering and everything. Renee, I flipped my rank list the week before ranks to be submitted completely on its head. Like, I went in a week before, I went in and I was like, oh, these are all my priorities. And then I sat back and I was just like, oh my God.
I don't want to do that.
I was totally wrong. And I flipped it. And thank goodness I realized that. But there's a lot that goes into ranking. So
yes.
This is, I don't know, did you have problems ranking?
I didn't have problems ranking. I knew what my 1 and 2 were. I knew what my 1, 2, and 3 were. But what I also knew was what I didn't want to rank. There was one program in particular. I was like, I'd rather not get a residency than to go to this program. I didn't even put it on the list.
Exactly.
So when you say that, this is a work environment, like, you have to think about where you want to go, where you want to end up. Like, for me, I took that to heart and I was like, is this a place that I think is going to be conducive to my mental health? And I was like, yeah, it's not. So, I ended up not ranking one of the programs. I think I ranked 7 and there was one that I didn't rank to make 8. Yeah.
No, I definitely pulled a couple of them because I was fearful at the beginning. I was fearful. I was like, I just need to put one. I just need to get to a program. Right. And then I think I had the same realization that you did, that it was not going to be conducive to my success as a resident with this one program, about what I learned with it. So I'd rather, at the time we called it scramble, right? I'd rather scramble.
I'd rather scramble
than go to a program that I knew was difficult. Although you got to hedge your bets, because the scramble program could be
it might not work out.
But
you just you gotta know what kind of candidate you are too.
Exactly. So yes, so you hopefully are already aware, whatever field you're applying into, whether or not you're actually in NRMP, because there are a couple of fields that are not. We are not going into that tonight. That is a whole different conversation. I believe they'll go into that next Monday. There's already some that have submitted, or some that will submit early because they have an early match. So every specialty, you must be extremely aware about which system you're using and how best to engage with that system. I see a great question, Andrea. Can you explain what signaling entails? Thank you for that question. We have a whole workshop next Monday on that, but the initial introduction to that is that you get to signal a specific number of programs, and it differs per specialty. You get to signal to those programs that you are very interested, basically, in attending one of those programs. We never had that while we were applying. It was just
No,
like
we
this
didn't.
total,
Yeah.
like, sometimes you got to like whisper to somebody, right? Like, oh, I
Right.
really like your program.
Or you did a second look.
Or you went and that's how they read
Yeah.
into it. Now there's an official way to signal,
Right.
and every specialty, again, it's described on, I think, the ERAS website. Yeah, because that's where you signal. How many programs you get to signal in each specialty. I think in family medicine, it's 5 or 6. Renee, I feel like for OB, you guys have a lot.
I don't even know. I'm so far removed from that, but I did speak with one of the residents who, you know, she's now in like her second year, but there's this thing about signaling, and then there's tokens, and then there's just so many different layers to let a program know that, hey, I'm actually interested in you. So, you know, before it used to be just by virtue of me accepting an interview, that would say I'm interested, but did it really? Or was it just, no, I'm just going to go on as many interviews as I'm invited to. Now it's like, I'm actually very interested and I would like to go to this program. And because your signaling and tokens or whatever are limited, you can't signal every single program. You can't give a token to every single program. So it really does, I think, help the programs parse down who is truly interested in attending.
Exactly. So there's signaling, and then there's geographic preferences where you get to highlight which region you want to live in. It is of significant importance that you use both. And we are both going to apologize, guys. Both of us are so far away from residency. We are not residency faculty, that we are not the ones to go into the details of this. That's what we have our wonderful faculty next Monday to go into. So, oh, is it 18 now, Ijeoma? Good Lord. And they got different levels. Yeah, craziness.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go. I love it. Thank you guys for pulling that out. Yeah, I feel like OB is one of the most, but we are going into all of that detail next Monday, guys. Please join or watch on YouTube at a later point so you can hear a lot more information there. Really quick, timeline you need to keep in your head as you're thinking about this 4th year. Your registration already opened. Hopefully you guys are pouring through that website. If you have not already, please take some time, a couple of hours, to just click through and read and watch the YouTube videos, because you never know. Whoever you end up getting paired with for your mock interview through our program, whoever is on the panel, you may have some questions that the website does not answer for you. So let's get those answered before September 4th, okay? Because that's when we really want you to focus on getting your applications in. Guys, this is rolling admissions. This is not, let's take our time and think about this over time. We need you to get your applications in so that you are in every way being considered at the earliest part of the pool, when you have the highest chances of being selected for an interview, just due to sheer volume and numbers. They have all of their spots open. So therefore, you have a higher chance of being selected for one of those interview spots, regardless of what your application includes. Let's just think about statistics there, all right?
Yeah.
Then your registration opens for NRMP. That's more of a standardized sort of, let's submit some data and the like, as opposed to your actual application. That is September 16th. Guys, we need you to have all of this done by the end of September. I do not want anyone still looking into this in October, because in every way you need to, again, optimize your opportunities by being part of the early crowd. By the end of January, your registration deadline. So you have some time, but like, why wait that long? I don't even know why it's open that long, NRMP. It just doesn't make sense. Please stop procrastinating. Your whole world is going to be based on the success of getting things done early.
Right.
But then February 3rd is the important part. That's when your ranking list needs to be in. Do not be fearful of going back and forth over that rank list again. Both Dr. Darko and I both did
Mm-hmm.
that. We needed the opportunity to talk with mentors, to talk with classmates, to
Mm-hmm.
talk with family members. Because the reason why I flipped my list, Renee, had nothing to do with the programs alone and me, kind of interpreting them differently. I
Right.
realized I thought I needed to go home and live with my family. And then I realized I'm so much more comfortable in Chicago. I've been in Chicago. So I flipped it totally
Right.
based on city. I was 100% ranking all the Philly programs first.
Right.
And then I was just like, but I know myself. I'm more comfortable where I've lived the past couple of years.
Right.
So I flipped my list. It was that,
and it worked.
And it worked. It was the best decision for me. I don't regret the program I mentioned at all. I absolutely love it. And then the rank order list certification deadline, that's actually when you need to actually certify the program, certify all of it. March 17th, March 20th, March 21st, match day. I mean, this is
scary.
It's
and exciting.
It's exciting, right? I mean, a lot of you might have participated in the match. I didn't go to match day. I didn't go to my match day.
I don't think we had a match day because we were all over the country.
Oh yeah, you guys are. So I didn't graduate with my class. So I was like, I don't know these people.
That's right. That's right.
I came back. It was like 3 years out. I was just like, no, because I
don't know these people.
I don't know these people. I was like, send me my letter. But anyway, some people really enjoy it. It is perfect on Instagram. Please, I need to see as many videos as possible because this is real joy for all of us. So I need to see some creativity coming out on March 21st. But most importantly, we will have another workshop to go into the details around the SOAP. Okay, supplemental offer and acceptance program, much more structure than we either had.
Before it was, somebody, call this person, oh my God, ask them if I can get in.
We're going to go through the entire calendar. We're going to go through it in probably late February. That's usually when we do that session. Let's not worry about that now. We want to support you through it, but we want to do that in a timely way. So we will hopefully actually also assist in supporting whoever needs that sort of connection during the actual SOAP timeline there, the 17th through the 20th. All right. The other thing that I really want you to download, take a picture of this, copy it, find it on the NRMP website. This is an important checklist that and watch all of the videos, guys. Please use the resources that are in front of you. This is a phenomenal checklist that they update every year. And we will be, they have really just like summed it up perfectly. I was like, oh, what's the new information? Look at this. It's all right here. Please download this, take a picture of this right now and go find it on the NRMP website. All right, a little bit of data, guys. We are scientists. I wanted to frame this whole process for you with a couple of snapshots. There's actually a boatload of data that NRMP actually collects. They do program director surveys. The last one was in 2022. I'm going to give you a little bit of data around there. But this one I thought was pretty telltale. We've got a mix of people probably watching this call tonight. So think about yourself as a fourth year MD or DO student. So that makes you a senior, a graduate. So maybe you've graduated in past years, and then our international medical graduates. These are your match rates, okay? So across all applicants, we match about 80% of the time. So odds are kind of in your favor. But we, also need to make sure you have the skills that we're going to talk about to make your application more successful. But there's, of course, a lot of other data, your rotation evaluations, your performance evaluation from your dean, all of that needs to go into it as well. That unfortunately we're not going to be able to influence during this Road to Residency program, but it's worth acknowledging that we do have a variation in the match rate there of fourth years versus graduates versus international medical grads. The placements there as well across applicants. And then the actual placement rate for active applicants. I don't know how they're distinguishing between all applicants and active applicants here, but I guess there are some that end up kind of withdrawing from the process.
Withdrawing. I was gonna, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
But maybe people who apply, because I do know of students who apply, are technically seniors, but are not graduates because they don't end up graduating in that particular year.
Got it. Yeah.
So just maybe that small nuance. That might be part of it.
Exactly.
So
exactly. All of the match and then actual placement numbers were decreased a little bit from 2023, which in my mind means we probably had increasing numbers as far as volumes.
Well, considering the number of schools also.
Yeah, number of schools
number of medical
increasing.
schools that have increased.
Exactly.
But unfortunately,
and not as many actual
the
positions.
residency programs, right?
Exactly. Other than, perhaps they didn't fill some spots, and that's what the participation in the SOAP process. But either way, it's pretty negligible there as well, the difference there. So wanted to show that data. Hopefully that doesn't freak some of you out, but it should in every way give you a little bit more ability to prepare yourself for this process, because I want you to have the reality of what you're going into as you enter the interviews and as you start to finalize your ERAS program, ERAS application. So this one I love. This was actually from the program director survey in 2021. They didn't actually repeat this question in the 2022 survey. And the 23 survey is not out yet. But personal characteristics and other knowledge considered in deciding whom to interview. All right. So as you're getting your ERAS application together, what are they looking at? And obviously, guys, this is going to vary by specialty and the like. And in fact, I have a graph, particularly with primary care, not necessarily specific specialty, but there's a specific graph there. But definitively want you guys to look at this. The program directors are looking at your letters of recommendation. Your personal statement is secondary. So we need
that's number 2.
Seriously. Okay. We have a whole nother workshop coming up next Wednesday. Y'all, this is why we plan this whole program this way. Your personal statement is critical, and you must differentiate your personal statement from how you described yourself going into medical school from what you need to describe going into residency. This is not about, I'm going to be a good doctor. This is a total different approach. We will talk about that next week. Diversity characteristics, Renee. I loved this. That they are purposefully seeking to diversify the classes. And for our audience, that's important. Perceived commitment. How are you showing your commitment through your application? Your personal statement, your interviews, your commitment to the specialty. I know in primary care, that is a huge one. And particularly in family medicine where I am, we need to know that you're committed to family medicine as opposed to another field. And then here we go, distance travel, having overcome significant obstacles. I love that that's also in the top 5. You can see the others here, interest in an academic career, whether you had an elective or rotation in the department, involvement and interest in research, again, varies greatly from specialty to specialty. And unfortunately, I don't necessarily have the data to tell you kind of how many of each specialty was included in this survey. But regardless, they usually have about 1,600 programs that submit data for this survey. It's taken quite seriously. So regardless, we have some pretty important data here to show that we need to take our letters of recommendation seriously, and you need to take your personal statement seriously. Point blank. All right. These are from the 2022 survey. Renee, I love these. Wait, let me walk through these. So the mean number of applicants in the top left, mean number of applications that were received, then interviewed, then whether they rank them. So it's kind of a waterfall effect here, right? So the average quota is more like the baseline that they, I don't know what residency program doesn't receive 10 applications. That's right. The point to me. I don't get that first bar, but the second bar. So On average, a single program receives more than 1,000, just over 1,000
Mhm.
applications. On average, they reject about half of
Yeah.
them based on a standardized screen. So they're looking for some particular USMLE score. They're looking for some particular commitment to a specialty, right? So it may
Mhm.
not just be a quantitative thing. It could be something in your personal statement.
Right.
Haven't defined what's in that standardized screen. It could differ from program to program. It will differ
Mhm.
from specialty to specialty, obviously. But then almost half of them are receiving holistic review, which I think is
Mhm.
phenomenal. Holistic review, if you are not familiar, it is very similar to how we think of holistic review for medical school, but they want to
Mhm.
look at your distance travel again. Have you overcome those obstacles? How have you actually made your way to be a successful candidate for that residency program? Okay. So this is where your entire application, not just these individual sections, letters of recommendation over here, personal statement over here, your interview over here, your entire application end to end should provide that holistic review process with
Mhm.
a end to end picture of who you are and how you're going to be of value to that residency program.
Yeah.
So I love that data point. 130 on average interview invitations sent, right? So I mean, that's not a lot. I mean,
They
1,000
parsing
invitations.
it down.
Woo.
You can down to like 10%.
Okay. All right. So everything that you submit in ERAS is getting you to that interview. All right. But the interview is going to be taken into account in that holistic review.
Right.
So we have to think through all of this as a end to end application process.
Mhm.
Then they offer a bunch of interviews, but then not everybody accepts them, which is kind of crazy to me. But I mean, I guess you just throw some things on your rank, on your application, and you
Right.
really don't
Or,
know.
you just know, like,
Yep.
or you've gotten a number of interviews and
Mhm.
you're good to go and you're like,
Yep.
"You know what? I'm done interviewing."
Exactly.
Mhm.
And then they still rank 100 of them. That is a lot. I mean, yeah, when I've been through our selection process when I was
Yeah.
faculty, I was like, who are all these people at the end of the list? I don't remember that. But I mean, we have to hedge our bets because, of course, the
Right.
NRMP weighs the student preference before the
Exactly.
program preference. So we
Yeah.
do have to rank, but that's on average. So there's obviously programs
Mhm.
that don't rank as many, but there's some that rank more. Okay. Bottom right. I love this one. How the programs rely on virtual engagement strategies to get to know
Mm.
you. So you need to participate, people, when they are sending
Yep.
you invitations for virtual open houses, when they are putting information up on their website and databases. I mean, they may just rely on that. But look at this, their virtual away rotations, not as much reliance. Okay. So if you are thinking about, oh, I did a sub-I there and everything, that's not how they're looking to really engage with you.
Right.
All right. But then
Right.
they may hold other virtual events with applicants. I thought this was pretty phenomenal that the
Mhm.
majority of them just really use their program website, which is just sad, which is just really sad.
Mhm.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's what they're relying on. That's what this data point is. That's what they're relying on. But if they are providing you with other opportunities, you need to take advantage of them.
Mhm.
Okay, because this just means they're putting energy into the website. Um, you may look at this and think, oh, but if they're not relying on it a lot, then why should I participate? But that means this gives you an opportunity to stand out, to introduce yourself to the program, to get to know either the faculty or the residents or the administrative staff
Right.
that's associated with the program. So anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting as well too.
Mhm.
All right, Renee, we talking too much. Look at the time. Okay, letters of recommendation. This
They
is
need to hear
critical.
all of this.
I know they do. All right.
It's
All right.
not too much when you get into residency.
Okay, thank you. Number one, you need to think strategically. If you guys do not have requests out for your letters of recommendation yet, I need you to get off your bums and say it nicely and think strategically. So, again, end to end your application. Who can speak to your different skill sets and experiences and characteristics? Yes, it's important maybe to have a chair if you have a relationship, or a division chief, or someone with some significant research background, or strength of particular expertise. Those are all important strategically, but most likely you're only going to get maybe one letter from somebody really, really high up and known, a name that's known, right? So where are you going to get language? They write these letters, although you should be drafting them as well too. Where are you going to get the biggest bang for your buck when you're thinking about your application end to end? So if that program director is speaking maybe from some experiences of how they've engaged with you on the wards, what other parts of your background, your experiences, can the other letters bring to the table? How can they supplement, add more information than your personal statement has already supplied? And I think that's probably the biggest piece that I find frustrating when I used to review residency applicants. I see the same thing in every part of their application. It's not helpful. These are all different sources of information for us to evaluate. So therefore, give me different data points and different information about your experiences, your expertise, your skill sets in every single one. I don't want to read the same thing. I don't want to read about your experience in this personal statement and then have the letter of recommendation tell me about the same exact thing. I want to see you more holistically. How can we review you holistically if you don't approach your application that way? So think about it strategically. Think longitudinally. There's maybe someone early on in your medical school career versus later, right? That can speak to your maturity. Remember, this is about distance travel. They want to know that you've overcome obstacles. So who can tell that story? Not just everyone at the end of your medical school career. And then lastly, be prepared. Oh my goodness, guys, I have gotten jobs. I have gotten offers because I am coming to the table saying, oh, would you like a draft? Do you need a writing statement? Here's my CV. Everything up front. Do not wait for them to ask for it. In fact, do not even say, would you like? Say, here it is. I'm attaching it to this email. It's about being over prepared because that's one less email that they have to reply to if everything is right there. Make it simple for them. So here's that one article that I was citing from primary care program directors from 2023, importance of application factors for considering a candidate for interview, whether they graduated within the last 3 years. So that does speak to the graduates having a lower match. We saw that data point earlier. No failure on board exams, the med school performance evaluation, step 2, faculty letter of recommendation. So this is different from the 2022 program director survey, or no, that was the 21 program director survey. But this is only primary care. That's why I wanted to show this so that you guys could really assess this for yourself.
Right. And notice that, like, it starts out with, did they graduate within 3 years? And that's like 75%. But then there's like this drastic, goes down to like 58. Right. It's like 58%. It's like, okay, well, it's just interesting data to look at. So,
all of those in the middle. Like, don't get caught up on the numbers.
Right.
There.
That's what I mean. Like, don't get caught up. Like, oh, it says no failure on board exams. And then it has this line. It's like, yeah, but the line is at 58. So it's important, but it wasn't 75% important.
Okay. Yeah. No.
So something to think about.
Exactly. All right. You should be asking way earlier. So if ERAS opens, and that's where the letter of recommendation portal is, if that opens, oh Lord, I already forgot the date. What was it? September 5th. Y'all better have wrote it down. I don't even know. I think it was September. You should
like
be
September 4th or 5th, something like that.
Somewhere around there.
September 1st.
Okay, aim for September 1st, and then just keep coming back until it opens.
It's right.
We need you to be asking immediately. I don't even know how else to say that. If you don't have these targeted, please provide clear instructions. That is all. There's actually language around ERAS on the ERAS website, guys, to supply that. It is nice and automated now. And most of us that are writing letters, I still am doing so. It's a very clean cut sort of way to use the portal, and make sure you're using that language, because there are still those really mean faculty out there that will say they will write a letter, but it is not good and it is not on your behalf. And you need to say more than just good. You need to say strong, Renee, right? Because
Yes.
I have also read
Stellar,
many a
strong,
letter.
excellent.
I've read many a letter of recommendation where it wasn't bad, but it was just like, sure, this person was
like, this added nothing to
it added
picture.
nothing, and you almost think to yourself, wow, this student had bad judgment if they actually asked this person to write this letter. I have definitively read many of those applications.
Ooh, don't get me started on judgment,
just bad judgment. So
yes,
you need to just be upfront and ask the question. Trust me, guys, the faculty that are writing the letters, they're used to getting this question. So get over your shyness and ask the question the right way.
Right.
Yeah. Please provide some draft language. It is so much easier to edit than to write anew. I am still drafting language for letters of recommendation, letters of reference that I need. In fact, I just wrote a couple of them because I just got my faculty appointment. Renee, did I tell you? I'm now faculty. And I won't be judging anybody's residency applications this year, but maybe next year. But I had to get letters of reference, and I had to draft letters. And guys, again, holistically, I was thinking about, I need this person to think about this, describe this expertise. So let me include this. I need this person to speak to this qualification and this qualification. So my draft letters were not just, oh, please speak to this and this and this, and here's my CV. No, I was very strategic about what I wanted in each letter and why I asked those individuals to write a letter on my behalf, or to basically sign the letter on behalf, because I wrote it end to end for all of them.
Right.
Provide them up front. Do not wait for them to ask. Please recognize. So we're going to go through this in the next workshop. Meaningful and impactful experiences in your ERAS application. You're able to pull out certain experiences from your CVs, from your history, and label them as meaningful and impactful. If any of them are maybe blemishes, if any of them are something that you particularly want to highlight as well, please think of your letters of recommendation as a way to do that as well, because you can only highlight a couple of them in your ERAS. So use your letter of recommendation to say, if, again, the person needs to be familiar with that experience, but use your letter of recommendation. This is an end-to-end application. They don't always just have to speak to your work on a rotation or whatever. If you're getting particular letter, maybe from somebody who worked on a nonprofit, or maybe there was an experience around your academic performance or something, and the person can speak to it, use your letter to describe why this was meaningful and impactful, and that the person, in their turn, voice, right? Because they're writing the letter, that they recognize this experience and they recognize what you gained out of that experience and why it might be meaningful for them.
Exactly.
Okay.
I will tell you, I have done that. I usually work with pre-meds, but I have done that. I had a pre-med that I had worked with for about 4+ years. His first MCAT was atrocious. The score was the lowest I think I had ever seen. But then he had like a 15-point jump to the next MCAT.
There you go.
And, that was something that I felt, you know what? I can speak to that because I saw him go through and work hard to get to that 15-point jump.
Great example.
And so I was able to basically say things he wasn't able to say.
There we go.
And he got into med school. So worked for him.
Look at Dr. Darko. Look at Dr. Darko mentoring. All right. I love it. And then please, as much as you need to know how many programs you can signal for your specialty, please track if there are particular writer requirements. Do they want someone from the specialty? Do they want someone particularly with your degree? There's all those different requirements. So please review them. We unfortunately don't have the ability to go through them in detail here, but please be responsible enough to look that up on your own. Thank you. All right. I loved this article. I've looked at this many times over the years. It's actually on Kevin MD. I don't even know people were reading that still, but it actually is actually a good blog.
Yeah.
And it's an article on how to ask for a good letter of recommendation, um, and what is in a good letter. He outlines, the author.
Mhm.
And I wanted to point this out because if you guys are writing drafts, you should be highlighting these points here. So, first and foremost, that the person is able to evaluate your performance, right? How are they connected to you, right? And what sort of expertise do they have to do that evaluation?
Mhm.
Tons of letters that I read. I run another selection committee for a fellowship program and everything now. The first paragraph or two paragraphs sometimes is the person bragging about who they are, because with that expertise, it then
Mhm.
frames how we know that they're providing some data that's meaningful about this
Yeah.
candidate. Okay.
The
And
credibility.
credibility, exactly.
Mhm.
Overall summary of your abilities, not your desires, right? So this isn't about I want to be such and such because I liked OB-GYN or family medicine. This is about my ability to be a family doc and
Yes.
OB-GYN is reflected in XYZ.
Right.
How can they actually summarize your abilities, not your desires? Okay, that's a
Mhm.
big differentiation.
Please
Um,
remember that.
please.
Please remember that
I
because
don't want to
lots
hear
of
why you want to be a family doc. I don't want to hear
yes.
it.
Please
I know
remember.
you want to be a family doc because you're
Yes.
applying to my program. Okay.
Right. That says it all.
This says it all. All right. Specific evaluation of the student's performance as presented with the 6 core competencies by ACGME. Actually, guys, I want you to go look these up because there are
Mhm.
core competencies around patient knowledge, interprofessional communication, um, and I'm blanking on the other ones, but I'm not the one
It's
applying.
6
I mean, there's 6 of them.
and
Thank
4 more.
you. And 4 more. Thank you. But I need you, but you should get familiar with that language. We should
Mhm.
probably look it up. I'll drop it in. I'll email it to everybody. But you should get familiar with that language and use it in the letter. It speaks exactly to how the programs will be evaluating you. So if you include that in the draft letter, it's connecting the dots perfectly. Please use that. All right.
So they
Patient.
are patient care,
There we
medical
go. Thank you.
knowledge,
I knew this.
practice-based learning and improvement,
Exactly.
interpersonal and communication skills,
That's what I said.
professionalism, and
There we go.
systems-based practice.
I knew it. I knew professionalism was in there somewhere. I
It's
should have
in
looked
there.
that up in advance. Thank you. We should make that a whole different slide. But anyway, you guys should know that you actually will be judged on those 6 core competencies probably for the life of your career. I actually include them in my credentialing process for my practice now, everything. But they're on
Mhm.
paper. I don't have them memorized. Anyway,
Yeah.
discussion of the student's attributes that demonstrate why the student will make an excellent resident. Why will you be excellent? Not
Right.
that you want to be excellent, not which community you want to serve
Right.
being excellent, but why,
Right.
what proof? You guys need to actually cite proof that you will be excellent.
Mhm.
Okay. Is it about the way that you work in a team? Is it about the way you step up in a crisis? Is it about the way that you advocate for your patients and your colleagues?
Mhm.
There's a lot of different attributes that
Right.
could be reflected in an excellent resident.
Mhm.
Include that in your letter. Highlight and Highlights and characteristics of the student, such as work ethic and extracurricular activities, may
Mm.
include traits that make the student unique or attributes that have enabled that student to overcome hurdles. Love it. Love it. Thank you, Love. I know Love is always on here.
He
Dr.
is.
Anani, he's leaving
Dr.
really good.
Nani, you are just answering, knocking these questions out.
I love it. All right. And then a closing paragraph summarizing the student's performance, including discussion of strengths. Guys, this is phenomenal. This is how a letter should look. Um, and yeah, you got to write these drafts. So I wanted you to know what a good letter would look like so that you can work this into drafts. Take a picture of the side, y'all. Take a picture.
Yes.
This is a big
And
deal.
if you're asking, I know I get this question, well, is writing the letter of recommendation, like, is Is that a thing? Is that unethical? Listen, if they don't like it, they won't sign it.
Thank you.
And if it needs to be tweaked, they
They'll
will tweak it.
It's easier to
If
tweak than write it anew.
Exactly. I
Mhm.
prefer, when I write letters of recommendation, I prefer for students to give me something to work with.
Yep,
Otherwise, I'm starting from scratch. And,
exactly.
people have multiple letters to write. So we can't ask people to start from scratch with, 50 letters that they're writing. So
Completely.
do them a favor and give them a draft.
But I will say this: I have a friend who wrote me a letter for my faculty appointment, and she loves writing them anew. I was like, "Are you sure?" So don't get
What's
freaked
wrong with
out.
her?
Don't get freaked out if they say no, thank you for a draft. Just
Right.
take it
Right.
and be like, "Woo!" But I was just
Exactly. That's less work for you.
and she sent me the letter because for faculty it doesn't have to be confidential. I was like,
Yeah.
"Dang!" I
It's
was like,
nice.
"It's
Who
nice."
is this?
I was like, "Is this me?" I was shocked, but some people love writing letters.
Yes. Well,
Find those
especially if it's
faculty.
an easy letter to write.
Yeah,
If it's an easy letter to write, there have been people that I can say it's been an easy letter. I don't
no,
actually need a draft.
that's
So,
true. No, that's true. That's true.
yeah.
You got to find those people who
Yes.
you have a relationship where it would be easy to
Yes.
write a letter. Exactly. All right, Renee, I'm handed over to you.
Now I'm on like I haven't been on before. So, okay. All right. Here we're going to talk specifically about the webcam interview, but that's only because, like Dr. Matthews said in 2020, everything just went
Crash.
upside down and we had to figure out how to let people know exactly what was a professional way to present yourself virtually for these
Mhm.
interviews. And the reality is that the interviews have continued, right? Virtually. Some, I'm assuming, are now in person. So much of the information that we're going to give you here is also going to, be things that you can translate for in-person interviews. But in terms of the way things should look, let's talk about webcam interview. All right. So first of all, no matter if it's virtual or in person, you can prepare, but do not memorize your answers. Please don't memorize answers because it's never going to, the interview is never going to pan out the way that you thought it was. So even if you're doing mock interviews and that the question of, tell me about yourself, is going to come up, for example, right? That's a question that we all kind of prepare for. You can practice, but don't memorize. Okay. Now, if there are certain bullet points that you want to hit, maybe you kind of think about those bullet points and think about how you will hit those bullet points, but you don't necessarily need to memorize your answers. Okay. But practice makes proficiency. Now, if you are having this interview virtually, sometimes people are like, well, just put post-it notes on your screen for reminders. I don't necessarily recommend that. I think that would be very distracting. That's up to you, but that's not something that I would recommend, mostly because you want things to be natural. You want to be in a conversation. This is not an interrogation, it is an interview. So I want you to all remember that you can practice being proficient in your answers, but don't memorize. And for goodness sake, just be free and don't do things that are distracting
Be
to you.
conversational.
Be
Memorizing and
conversational.
it's got to be a conversation.
Yeah. So professionalism from the start to the finish. Okay. So I don't know, there's this running story about, how somebody was in the airport and they were going to an interview and, they had a bad encounter with one of the people who was on the flight, going to the same city. And then next, that person ends up being the dean at the, at the school or whatever. And I'm like, okay, you don't want that to happen, right? Especially when you're going to small towns. Okay. Don't want to go to the small town and flip somebody off. And next, it's the wife, of the program director. You know what I mean? So
There's always that scary story.
professionalism, right? From start to the end. Okay. Now, for virtual interviews in particular, you need to think about where you're looking. Are you looking into the camera? Are you looking down? Are you looking up? You really should be trying your best to look at the camera. And I'm going to show you how to situate your camera, situate the room in order for you to be able to look at the person that you're talking to. What are you wearing? It does matter what you wear. Okay. You don't want whatever you're wearing to be distracting to someone. You don't want someone to be so focused on the fact that you didn't wear something, that was conservative or businesslike, that they don't hear your answers anymore. So, professionalism from start to finish. What facial expressions are you making? Right? When we're in person, your facial expressions are one thing, but when you are on camera, your facial expressions are everything, right? Because that's most of what the person can see about you. So when you're practicing, if you have to think about something, don't just kind of make sure that your facial expressions are not distracting, right? So that's not to say don't be yourself, but it also is to say whatever yourself is, bring the best foot forward that you have. Okay? And treat each moment, even when it's virtual, as you would when you're in person. I mean, do you find that, Kim, that like sometimes when people are doing things on camera, it can be very distracting so that you don't even hear what they're saying anymore?
I think so, but I also don't mind when there's some like natural maybe movement, like like actually speaking up, like, oh my goodness, this has happened to me in an interview actually.
Mhm.
The lawnmower's going by. I'm so
Right.
sorry. It's difficult hearing you. Like actually recognizing that like we're in this dynamic and that other things can disrupt it. So like not
Right.
being like this formal, I'm sitting on my hands and like it's
You
this
don't want to be a robot.
a robot. You always say it better than me. Anyway, like I like when they're being more natural with it and like, oh, I'm so sorry. My dog is, do you mind if I go like lock my dog out the room or something? Like that happened to me as well too.
Right.
Like sometimes it just happens.
Right.
And you would do the same sort of generous sort of, I would think you would do the same
Mhm.
sort of thing in person. So
In person.
make it
Yeah.
natural.
Yeah. So you want to be natural. You don't want to be distracting. But like you said, if something does come up, just kind of naturally move into that thing.
Exactly.
So, you can excuse yourself, you can, do things that you normally would do in person. Um, but again, you also don't want to have like just so many things going on.
You should be more prepared than a dog that's barking in the room. I mean, that
Right.
I agree. But a lawnmower going by the window, you don't have control
Right.
over that.
Exactly. So like right now, my kids are like jumping on the ceiling. You may not be able to hear that, right?
Mm-mm.
But every time they jump, I shouldn't be like,
Right.
that's what I
Raising.
mean by don't be so distracting.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. And then manage your time. Okay. Manage your time. You don't want to ramble, but you also, don't want to make things so curt and so short that your interviewer doesn't get a sense of what it is that you're trying to convey. Again, be conversational, right? Um, realize that again, this is a conversation and you do want to speak naturally, but you don't want to be rushing, but you
Yeah.
do want to get to the point, right? So
Mm.
you don't want to, it all started, back in 1982. It's like, okay, I mean, unless something really poignant happened in 1982, or unless you're going to time jump,
I don't want to
you
hear
know,
about high school. I don't
right. Unless it's relevant,
relevant.
and you're going to get to the point,
Yeah.
right? So just make sure that you're talking naturally. Again, this is where your mock interviews are going to be so very important, because
Yeah.
if there is, let's say there is something from high school that is extremely important that has brought you to this point, again, that's fine,
Yeah.
but you don't want to ramble on. So
Exactly.
just again, manage your time and realize that there is a time limit for your interview. And you want to be able to convey as much information as possible in your favor for the interviewer to hear.
Well said. Let me say one thing about talk naturally though, Renee, because I've,
Hmm.
I've actually had this experience, unfortunately. Talk naturally means make it
I know what you're going to say.
conversation.
Yes.
It does not mean talk the way you talk to your friends. It does not mean that you shouldn't in some way recognize that you may need to use your double consciousness and just, speak the way you would in a professional environment.
You mean
And
code switching?
code switch a little bit. It's not full code. It's not code switch to,
I know what you mean.
you know what I mean. But
I do.
like I want you to be natural, but I want you to recognize that there is a way to be natural with a professional tone.
Absolutely.
And so I do often point out when I'm doing mock interviews that they're using a bit of informality there that we probably need to get you past. So do not confuse informal and natural.
Yeah. No, I definitely understand what you're saying. For example, right now we're talking very naturally.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're in a professional setting and we're talking pretty naturally. I feel very comfortable in the way that I'm speaking.
Correct.
But if Cam and I were off camera, as we
it would
have been for many years, we would probably not be speaking like this. And
I'd be dropping F-bombs and
right. Having a little more vernacular,
Exactly.
But there are times when Cam and I are off camera and we're talking about something that is, a little more professional. Let's say that we're preparing for this particular session today. We do end up talking very naturally and very professionally because we are having a natural and professional conversation.
Exactly.
But that conversation may move to, to another topic where we feel, there's another tone of voice that is taken. So just be very mindful of that. Yeah. Well, that's a very good point.
Well.
All right. Your interview space. Now, this is obviously all virtual. Make sure it is well lit, clean space. Okay. Try not to have things that are distracting behind you. For example, Childish Gambino smoking a cigarette after This Is America is
it sure is.
Not what you want in your background.
That is brilliant. I did not even notice.
So, there are many times, sorry, I just hit a button on my thing. There are many times when I am having a professional presentation that I will actually take this down because it just is not the setting for it, right? It's just not the setting. But for other presentations, I'll leave it up. My husband laughs at me. He goes, you took it down because you're code switching. I'm like, no, I took it down because this is just not the place and time for that kind of thing. You want a neutral background, so you don't want, your political leanings potentially, or your, religious leanings, or your whatever, right? You're not there to talk about those things in particular. You're there to talk about the reasons that you should be in this residency program, the reasons that they should consider you for these residency programs. If those leanings are part of what of what you want to bring to the program, that's fine. But that's something that you should discuss, not something that you should leave for someone to assume.
Correct.
And I think putting that in the background would leave more for assumption than anything else. So
it also doesn't have to be stark white though.
Correct.
Because I've had students nervous about that. I don't, they don't have a quiet space other than maybe their bedroom. Right. So maybe you just take away the distraction, right? So I don't want you to clean out the room, but sometimes if there's too much, it can be distracting to the conversation.
Distracting. Yeah. Absolutely. Ideally, use a desk for your interview space. Again, we're all virtual at this point, or just talking about the virtual space. Ideally, use a desk. That's not always a possibility. I've had students who have used kind of like one of those folding tables, like a card table, right? I've had students use a dining room table or books, propping up books, on some hard surface, because sometimes just the environment that you're in doesn't allow for that. It is not preferable, however, to hold, your laptop or whatever device that you're going to use in your hand. That can get very unsteady.
None of
That can
this.
get very distracting.
None of this.
Exactly. Right. That can get very distracting, right? And you want your interviewer focused on what you're saying, not on not being nauseated, right? So those of you who have done surgery rotations, the laparoscope, like the surgeon's like, I'm getting nauseous, like stop moving this thing.
Right.
So you want something that's really steady. Okay. And we're going to talk about the setup right now. So the equipment that you should have, right? A laptop or a computer with a webcam, right? So I don't know if you guys, you may not be, oh, there you go. So I got a webcam, okay, but we also have a professional camera as well. You might have your camera that's like embedded into the screen, right? Into your screen of the laptop or your tablet. That's fine as well. I would say your phone is the last choice. It is a choice. It is just the last choice. Okay. So if you have a laptop, webcam, a tablet, try to choose those first. But a phone is a choice as well. Headset or earphones might also be necessary, just kind of, again, depending on the setting, just to kind of avoid feedback. Sometimes a headset or earphones will help with that. A mic on a device or an external mic, right? Either way, you just want something that they're going to be able to hear you well on, right? So just make sure that your mic is actually working. And then I would say most programs I don't think are going to have software for you to download, but they might. Zoom does have some software download, right? So you might have to download Zoom or whatever system it is that they're using. Make sure that you download that software well before your interview, so you don't run into the problem of, well, I don't know how to use the software, or it didn't download, or whatever. You don't want to do this 30 minutes before your interview or 10 minutes before your interview.
Pretty much.
Okay. Test run your equipment. Okay. Test run your equipment. It might be difficult because, again, depending on the software, you may or may not be able to get into a specific system. If it's Zoom and you've been on Zoom for a million times, just run it, because Zoom to be doing these updates.
You could have some funky background. I don't know how many.
Exactly. You could have a crazy looking background that you put on Zoom and you forgot. Or you are running Google Meets with your friend or some other session, and now Google Meets took over your camera and your mic and you don't know how to get it off.
Yeah.
And it's 10 minutes before you're supposed to log in. So that has happened lots of times, right? Where you have to go shut the computer down or go into your settings and say, Google Meets, let go of my camera and my mic, all kinds of things. So test run your equipment. You want to do that at least 24 hours before, if not before then. Now, positioning. Okay. So I'm positioned very specifically. Okay. In this way, I use this camera for a reason, because I could have used, any other camera. But what you see is me looking at or near eye level is where the camera is. So I'm looking directly at the camera. Okay. I'm within arm's length. Okay. Within arm's length of my screen. My shoulders are in the shot. Okay. And you can't see my ceiling. Okay. You can't see my ceiling, which means you can't see up my nose. Okay. It's very important. People don't want to look up your nose. Okay. The other thing I'm going to show you really quickly is I have lights. I didn't put this up yet, but I wanted to put this up for effect for you. And you want to do this obviously before you hit the scene. But I have lights that are actually behind, or actually they're kind of at angles, but they are behind the screen. And when I turn them on, you can see the lights are now shining on me. Okay. You want your light behind, right? Behind the camera. Okay. You want them in front of you. You don't want light behind you. In other words, do not sit in front of a window. If you sit in front of a window, you will look like a shadow. They will not be able to see your face very well. It's not going to be very well lit. So do not sit in front of a window. Have your lights in front of you behind your camera. You can even have it like I have it, which is kind of at like 45-degree angles, or you can have the light directly in front of you. You do not have to have actual lamps. You can just sit in front of the window facing the window, but don't sit with the window behind you.
Yep.
Okay. Does that make sense to everyone? So you can see the gentleman on the left here. He's sitting right in front of the window. Okay.
Be careful, those of you who wear glasses. You can see the reflection occasionally on my screen, and I have found that to be distracting at times. So I'm not saying take off your glasses. I don't want you, having difficulty seeing the person. But when you're positioning your lights, this is why you do a test run. Figure out where the lighting isn't necessarily causing some reflection off your glasses.
Reflection. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right.
Okay, sorry.
So this is just another slide showing shoulders in the frame, right? For the young lady who's on the right, shoulders in the frame. She's got good head space. You don't really see her ceiling. Whereas the lady on the left, you can pretty much see like up her nostrils. You can see the ceiling. She's really a talking head. It's just her neck and her head that are in the frame. It works in that, you get to say what you need to say, but it's also a little distracting. It's just something that, is just catchier to the eye, and you don't want your interviewer to be distracted by anything that you are doing. You want them to be focused on what it is that you are saying.
I have found, because for both work and personal, my laptop, I'm a little bit angled down. But I also usually in meetings am typing. I'm doing something, which you should not ever do during an interview. So if you're using your laptop, you should elevate it enough so that one, you're flat on, but two, you're less likely to type because it's going to be an uncomfortable positioning from an ergonomic standpoint, right? So your laptop should be shifted up, and therefore you'll resist the temptation to type, respond to emails, or do anything. And have a pen instead if you want to take notes, because I know some of us, I like to take notes during interviews as well too, but don't do it on the laptop. It'll be completely confusing, distracting. And
you might actually lose
the person,
the picture, right? And like, oh, where are you? Absolutely. So if you go back one slide, you can see the gentleman actually has his laptop propped up.
That's exactly what you should do.
Perfect.
Yeah,
exactly. If you have a phone or a tablet, okay, it is best to use it in landscape mode, not portrait mode. Okay. So again, a phone is an option. Tablet is an option. Just make sure you prop it up against something that is going to give you that same view.
And if you can, I use it because when we go live or do some of these things, I've done it on my phone or even my iPad. I have a stand that I can actually put it in. It's not like a selfie stick thing. It's an actual weighted stand so that it's at the right height and everything. If you don't have a laptop and you need to go with a phone or a tablet, get one of those.
Exactly. Yeah, you have the tripods and other types of stands that will allow you to have that
lights on them. I mean, y'all been streaming. Y'all know how to do it.
Yeah, they know. They know all this. Okay, so we kind of talked about this before. Again, whether virtual, whether in person, conservative, business attire. It doesn't mean it has to be all blue and black. That's the other thing that I want to say, right? It doesn't have to be all blue and black. You can still be conservative without necessarily looking like you're going to a funeral, right? So if you go back one slide and or two slides and look at this young lady, right? She's wearing a jacket. She's got, kind of this dark shirt, the lady on the right, still looks professional, right?
Yeah.
Still kind of conservative, but that she doesn't look like she's going to a funeral,
Yeah.
right? So
Completely.
that kind of thing.
And for in-person interviews, we have to say, guys, please dress professionally but comfortably.
Yes.
Wearing skirts where you're going to be fidgeting. I'm of course worried about the length. Make sure it's of an appropriate manner to the knee or lower. But if you can't do that, if it's difficult, to find a longer skirt, because sometimes you just can't find one, whatever. You might want to opt for some pants, because if you're shifting and you're fidgeting and you're pulling at it all day, it looks a little bit difficult. Please do not wear the multiple inch heels, ladies. Those are professional at times. I'm not saying that they aren't, but you stumbling around or having difficulty at the end of the day because it's a long interview day is not going to help you. It's going to make you look unprofessional. So I'm not saying wear flats. You can do a nice little kitten heel or the like, but you should not, I hate to say this, y'all should not be wearing those platform heels. You shouldn't be doing anything a bit ostentatious around boots or anything. Simple. If you don't like conservative, think of it as simple.
Right. And I think, again, we talked about judgment, right?
Yeah.
Having the judgment to know where you're going to be, how long this interview is going to last,
Yep.
What is going to distract you, right? Having that discernment, that judgment of, if I wear a skirt that is maybe, a half size too small and I keep pulling it down because it keeps riding up, like, was that really the skirt that you should have worn? Was that really the heel that you should have worn? Gentlemen, you not getting off easy either. Right? Because I know, like, the tight pants that, that are like the ankle length now, those things are
Oh,
in,
ankle, no
right?
socks.
Right? Ankles, no socks. Oh, I want to see your ashy ankles. Okay.
So good.
Right? So just, again, keep these things in mind, right? Like, if your pants, gentlemen, are too tight and you're pulling at the crotch because, again, it keeps riding up, nobody wants to see you get your Michael Jackson on, right? Like, we need you to be comfortable, not pulling at yourself. You're just there to say why you think you would be a good fit for the residency, not for any other reason.
And this isn't about giving in to a culture. This isn't about saying that
you can't be
you're
yourself.
patronizing yourself and
Right.
your own expression. This is about getting a job. Okay. When you are actually a physician and you have the job, you can wear whatever you want. I don't wear a white coat anymore. I barely get dressed up. I wear jeans. I would do what I want. And that's also my practice environment, right?
I stopped
I
wearing
can
a
do
white
that now.
coat intern year.
I could do my hair any sort of way I want because I already have the job and I'm the professional. Y'all are trying to get the job. Okay. And so this isn't about limiting your expression. It is about recognizing that you do not want to be distracting in any sort of way to give any sort of reason to prevent yourself from getting a job.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the question of, I'm glad you talked about wearing your hair whichever way you want, because this is a question we get. We even had a whole session about this at AMEC, right?
Yeah.
How do you wear your hair? Is natural hair
Yep.
okay? Natural hair is okay.
It is okay.
You don't need to do a bump and curl. You don't need to do a silk press. You can do twists, you can do braids, you can do whatever you want. There are hairstyles that are more party than they are professional. And that's for any hair. I don't care if your hair is straight. I don't care if your hair is, coily. It doesn't matter. You just need to know, are you going to a party or are you going to an interview? So there are times where I would wear my hair a certain way for a party, but there are times when I wear my hair a certain way to go to a professional event. I've been natural since before medical school. I've never pressed, permed my hair since before medical school. I've always been natural.
Yep.
And I've always worn my natural coil. So yes, you can wear natural hair. Just be mindful of that.
Yep. Perfect. Renee, watching our time, we are jumping over.
Yes.
We're going to finish this section, and then we will think about ways to move the mindset section to another workshop, just because we're having a good conversation, and
we are
I
having
don't
a
want
good
to keep everybody too
conversation.
late. Poor Sydney is behind there, like, can y'all get off the screen?
So the other thing is wear bottoms. Please wear bottoms. I don't know if you remember.
Y'all haven't learned this.
Yeah, but this is a true story. I don't know if you guys knew or remembered this, but this was during the pandemic. This fellow here was being interviewed, and he was at home virtually, and he did not wear bottoms, and it showed on national television. And so here he is now on our screen. So wear bottoms if you're virtual. Okay, that doesn't absolve you. Remember that presentation is everything. Okay, early is on time is late, and late is unacceptable. So please log in early, because if you log in right at the time, then you're probably late, kind of like I was today.
You're good. You weren't that late.
And late is unacceptable.
And late is unacceptable. I love it.
All
right. Jumping ahead. Yeah, we appreciate you spending your evening with us. Some next steps to recognize. Please, we stress timeline and being prepared and being early and knowing what's in front of you. Plan out your calendar, what date you're going to get through things. You still have a month of August. Maybe you're trying to enjoy your summer. Maybe you have a hard rotation coming up. You have a sub-I and everything. Plan ahead so that you can get your applications in, so that you can think through how you're going to prep for your mock interviews, your actual full-fledged interviews. Yes. Please attend our specialty panels. Any registered student for a road to residency will get further information by email. This workshop is open to any student that is able to listen and will be available on YouTube. However, our program is only for graduating SNMA and LMSA members. This is a membership benefit that we have created for these organizations. So unfortunately, if you're not a member of those organizations, you won't be able to take part in our mock interviews unless you actually pay for your membership. Please do that, even though you only got a year left. But we do want to make sure we support our SNMA and LMSA members. Please, again, the way that these programs engage with you, attend those residency fairs, meet residents, meet faculty and the like, and definitely fill out any surveys, because that's how they're going to continue to improve. Highlighting, again, please feel free to take a picture. It's up on our Instagram and other pages as well, too, what workshops we have. Next week, we'll talk more about ERAS, geographic preferences, signaling, meaningful experiences, as well as personal statement. And we'll bring in our mindset work on the 14th. Just so that you can see it, this is hot off the presses for the students that are actually registered for our mock interviews and our members of SNMA and LMSA. We will have a group of different specialty panels. We're still finalizing participation over a handful of them, but you will get these registration links by your email, either through SNMA and LMSA members who are helping us coordinate, or directly from myself. We're really happy to have several strong partners this year, including Zimmer Biomet for an orthopedics panel, Urology Unbound for urology, and the Society of Black Academic Surgeons and Latino Surgical Society are actually co-sponsoring the general surgery and surgical specialties workshop on the 20th. So really excited about that. And then lastly, we have a couple of additional special focus panels where we wanted to make sure we brought about the space for additional conversation. So whether you're applying as an international medical graduate, whether you identify as an LGBTQ student, we wanted to make sure that you had the space and a set of faculty to talk to and ask questions about. about your particular experiences during this residency season. And then again, Renee will be talking about becoming financially savvy on September 10th. So with that, we are awfully happy to have brought you guys a few of the strategies, just a few. There's more coming. Please definitely follow us on IG and Twitter. Please attend our upcoming workshops. And we thank you for your time. Thank you, Dr. Darko.
Thank you.
Love seeing you.
Ooh, so good to see you.
I love you.
Love you too, baby.
All right.
And thanks for all the wonderful questions, guys. Have a great night.
Have a great night, guys. Bye-bye.